Let's begin. As always, we just take a moment to exhaust all the senses and set an intention for the practice. So, facing the top of your mat and your blocks, because sometimes they're handy to have there at the beginning, just settle in, checking in that the feet are right underneath the hips, and then roll the shoulders back and turn the palms forward. Close the eyes. By closing the eyes, we eliminate powerful sense of vision, which tunes us in a little bit more to our inward journey here. Now take a moment to listen as far as your ears can hear and in all directions. Searching for sounds that are far away outside of the building that you're in. Maybe you hear only one or two sounds. That's fine. Just identify them. And then let them go and move to sounds that are inside your building, home. Each sound, identify it without letting it distract you, and then move to the next sound. Making your way in eventually to the sounds that are in the room that you're in, and then the sound of your own breath. Become aware now of the temperature of the air on your exposed skin. Places where your clothing is touching your skin. The contact points between the soles of your feet and the mat. And now notice if there are any smells in your space and identify those. And then let them go. Bringing your awareness to the space behind the closed eyes. And in this space, consider what you would like to bring to the practice today. Maybe it's a commitment to being present. Maybe it's a commitment to challenging your edges. Maybe you've come up with something completely different. Find a word or a few words to describe this intention. And then repeat those words to yourself mentally 3 times. Trusting that this seed that you have planted in mind and body will be nourished by the practice. Bring your awareness now back to your breath and follow the inhalation and the exhalation. Just notice any movement in the body that happens because of that breath. Notice if there's possibly a difference between the inhalation and the exhalation. Maybe taking note of the slight pause between inhalation and exhalation. That slight pause, it is breath retention. In Sanskrit, that moment of breath retention, spontaneous breath retention, is called Kavala Kumbhaka. We sometimes don't recognize that pause, but it's there, and it's actually important. With that awareness still on the breath, let's link movement to breath. Inhaling, circling the arms up to the side, bringing the hands shoulder width apart. And then exhaling, turn the head up toward the ceiling. Stay there for the inhale. And then exhale to return the head to neutral. Inhale to lift that side body up and out of the hips, letting the shoulders just freely go where they want to. And then exhale, slowly bring the arms down in front of you. and release them back to Tadasana. Your eyes can stay closed or you can open them, whatever your preference here. Let's do that again. So inhale, circle the arms up to the side. Hands come shoulder width apart, palms are facing each other. Exhale to look up between the hands. Stay there for the inhale. Exhale to return the head to neutral. Inhale, reach up a little bit higher, especially thinking about the side body extending. And then exhale to slowly bring those arms down in front of you. One more time, inhale up, we'll change it a little bit this time. Bring the palms together and interlace the fingers, and then flip those palms toward the ceiling. Exhale to pull those hands back, and inhale to lift up through the side body again. Exhale to side bend to your right, pushing that left foot into the mat. Let's make this a little dynamic. So inhale back up to center. Exhale to side bend again to the right. One more time. Exhaling on that side bend. Inhaling up to center. Exhale, release those arms forward. Keep the palms facing away from you, and then fold with the arms as they come down in front of your shoulders. Release the hands and bring the palms to the thighs. Inhale and find cow in the upper body. So you're facing the top of your mat. I was just facing the camera there, but I'll turn again now. Exhale to round up into cat. Let's do that 2 more times. Inhale, find cow. Exhale, round up to cat. Inhale, find cow. Exhale, round up into cat. Stay here for the next inhale. Expand through the back of the rib cage. And then exhale to slide the hands down your legs and maybe bring them to your blocks. Let them land on the blocks in such a fashion that your legs can actually stay straight. And maybe you can touch the floor with your legs staying straight. But if when you're touching the floor, the knees bend, stay in a place where those legs are straight, releasing through the head. And every exhale that comes into the body, pull the navel to the spine and just see if maybe that rib cage would go a little bit closer to those thighs. Think of working with that wave of the breath coming in and out of the body. And now imagine the feet are super glued to the mat and spreading away from each other. Feel the energy up the outsides of the legs. Inhale, circle, bring the arms up to the side again. Palms touch, interlace the fingers the awkward way, the way that doesn't come quite as naturally. And then flip those palms toward the ceiling. Exhale to pull the hands back. Inhale to lift up out of the hip joints, out of the side body, out of the hip joints. And then exhale, side bend to your left this time, pushing that right foot into the mat. Inhale to come up to center. Exhale into the side bend. Inhale up to center. One more time on that side bend. Inhaling up to center. Exhaling to reach those arms forward with the palms still facing away and the fingers interlaced. Start to fold as the hands come to the shoulders, and then separate the hands again and bring them to the thighs. Inhale again, find cow in the upper body. Exhale, round up to cat. 2 more times. Inhale, find cow. Exhale, round to cat. The knees can be slightly bent here if that feels more comfortable in your body. Inhale again. Exhale, round up. Stay here on this cat position. Inhale to expand through the back of the rib cage. Exhale, navel to spine, slide the hands down the legs. And again, find a place where those hands can rest. Maybe it's on your shins or blocks, or maybe it's the floor where your legs are staying straight. The head is released. And again, let's bring a lot of awareness to keeping those straight legs and working through the breath. So every exhale, navel pulls toward the spine, and maybe you're folding over just a little bit more. Strap is handy, hopefully. If not, you can reach for it. Just be careful. Maybe bend the knees down to reach for it. So taking that strap in one hand, imagine the feet scrubbing away from each other. Inhale, circle the arms up overhead, and then reaching for the strap with 2 hands and sliding the hands out along that strap so the strap is over the crown of the head. Inhale again, just kind of wiggle up through that side body. And then exhale to release the strap down and behind those shoulders, letting the hands slide out as you find necessary. Crown of the head reaching toward the ceiling here, and just visualize that opening happening through the chest and the fronts of the shoulders. Inhale to lift the strap up a little bit. Exhale to lower below that shoulder level. Inhale up, go a bit higher. Exhale, go a bit lower. That 2 more times. So inhaling up a bit higher each time, exhaling to lower a little bit more each time. 1 more time. And then just keep it in that lower level. Pull the hands apart on that strap and keep that energy of pulling the hands away from each other as you slowly lower the strap all the way down. And when you feel the strap come to the body, just release the arms down. And then you can release the strap down to the side there and return to your Tadasana position. Stay in Tadasana with the palms facing forward. Inhale, lift all 10 toes and spread them really wide. Stay with all the toes lifted except for the big toes. Lower the big toes down to the mat. Stay there for a full breath, and then lower the rest of the toes down and lift just the big toes up. Stay with that for a full deep breath, and then release those big toes down. Beautiful. Inhale, circle the arms up overhead. Palms touch, gaze up there if that feels good in the neck. Exhale, bring your hands down to the heart center. Now just take a moment without looking. Visualize your feet being right underneath your hips. You can gaze straight ahead, but without looking at the feet, step back with your right foot so that it stays in line with the hip. So your feet are still hip width apart. And then turn the toe out very slightly. Nice. Bend that front knee. So there's a bit of a lunge position to that. And then reach the rib cage up toward the ceiling, keeping the hands at the heart center. I'm just going to switch feet so that I'm not on the same foot, not mirroring you here. So just stay with this for a moment. Just notice what you feel in the body. You might feel some stretching through the front of the right hip. You might feel something in the low back. If it feels like you're kind of crunching it, just try to lift up first and then back. And now let's reach the arms up and gaze up there if that feels good. This is a warrior one position here. Stay with this for a full deep breath. And then exhale, bring the hand back to the heart center, bring the head to neutral. And now from this position, straighten out that front leg. Inhale to lift the crown of the head up toward the ceiling, and exhale to reach the rib cage forward and then down. So you're getting a folding happening through the spine here. And as you fold, go very, very slowly, keep breathing and imagining that you're pulling that left hip away from that left heel, and just see how far you go with that. The head can release if it feels good, or it can stay reaching out to the space ahead of you. So you might end up being halfway, or you might end up being folded over more than halfway. Wherever you end up, stay there for 3 full breaths. Keep visualizing that left hip, pulling away from that left heel. And then after that third exhale, inhale, bring the body all the way up. The back foot, release that heel up off the mat and pivot so the foot is facing forward, and then step it in underneath that hip. Now we'll do exactly the same thing on the left side. First of all, you may recall just closing the eyes for a moment or gazing straight ahead, but feeling that sense that the feet are placed right underneath the hip. And then without looking at that foot, slide it back, the left foot, just slide it back and lay it down and turn the toe out very slightly. So there's no need here to step way back. It's just a small lunge so that you can keep that heel grounded and the hips are facing forward. So if you took a really big step, it's likely that you'd have to turn the hips to the side. So we just stay right here. Bend that front knee a little bit. So our body is basically now lower part in warrior one position. Just stay right here. Imagine that you're lifting the crown of the head up toward the ceiling. And then if you'd like to deepen the back bend, just imagine the rib cage kind of lifting up and back. Find ease in that. Stay with it. Your front leg can bend maybe a little bit more. There are quite a few variations on this warrior one in terms of what your body feels comfortable doing. If you would like to bring the arms up and gaze between the hands, by all means, just reach, let the shoulders go where they will. Take a few breaths here, find your strength. This is warrior one. So this is a way of tapping into your power. A little bit of balance work going on, not as much as some of the other standing warriors because our feet are hip width distance apart. One more inhale. And then exhale, bring the hands to the heart center again. Bring the head to neutral.
You're frozen.
I'm frozen. Okay, so what we did, Okay, can you let me know? Can you let me know somehow if I'm still frozen or if I've come up to the screen here? Okay, give me a moment here. Okay, Boo is saying that it's not frozen for her. So Julie, it might be at your end. So I'm going to go back and maybe Julie leave and come back or something and see if that helps out. And Boo, let me know if I've frozen for you. So I'm going back to where we were here and folding over the leg. And again, taking it as slowly as you want, maybe coming up halfway, maybe folding more, but that right hip is pulling away from the heel. Stay with it for 3 breaths. Nice hamstring stretch. And then after that third exhale, inhaling to come all the way up again. Beautiful. Let's take an exhale, step in, release the arms down by the side. Just take a moment in that mountain pose. Feel the earth underneath your feet. Lift all 10 toes again, spread them wide. Lower all the toes except the big toes. Stay there for a full inhale and exhale. And then lower the big toes and lift up all the other toes. And then release those toes down. Inhale, circle the arms up overhead. Exhale, slide the hands in front of the body as you fold over. Bring the hands to your blocks. And then make your way down to a tabletop position with your blocks handy. So bring the hands to the tops of the blocks with the blocks at their lowest level. Knees are underneath the hips, so just shift around. Check in that your shoulders are right stacked over your wrist and your knees are underneath your hips. Inhale and find cow in the upper body here. And then maintaining cow, walk those blocks out as far as you can, reaching the rib cage down toward the mat. Keep that cow in the upper body as long as you can, and then release the forehead down to the mat. Anahastasana. Stay here for 3 breaths. If you feel this in your knees, bring a blanket to the practice so that you can roll up the blanket and have your knees on that blanket. So we still have cow in the upper body effectively. The forehead is completely relaxed on the mat or possibly on a block. One more inhale and exhale. And then inhale, come all the way back up. Sliding all the way back up to that tabletop position. Tuck the toes on the right foot and slide that foot back, pushing the heel to the space behind you. Stay with that for 3 breaths as well. And then slide back in, tuck the left toes under, untuck the right, and slide that foot back. Stretch out through that calf muscle. Staying here for a couple more breaths. Crown of the head reaching ahead of you. And then sliding that knee back in, untuck the toes again. Let's go for Anahastasana again. The second time around when we do anything, oftentimes our brain says, yeah, that's okay. I can do that. And maybe we go a bit deeper. So again, find cow in the upper body. Walk the blocks out at their lowest level as far as you can go without moving the hips. The hips are staying lined up over the knees. And then keeping that cow in the upper body, reach the rib cage right down toward the mat. And then let the forehead rest on the mat. And then once you're in this Anahastasana, which is quite different than child's pose, right? Because child's pose, our hips go back toward our heels. But here, our hips are staying right over the knees. So a couple more breaths. This invites quite a bit more back bend into the pose, quite a bit more spinal extension, which is usually pretty good for us because we spend a lot of time in spinal flexion. One more inhale and exhale here. And then make your way all the way back up again. And options here for the next pose, which will be a focus on the shoulders, to come to a kneeling position, possibly with your cushion underneath your hips and between your hips and heels. So kneeling position, a high kneel, or just a regular seated position, again, probably elevated. You could even sit on a chair for this. Take your strap. I'll face you for a moment. I might change my angle to you a few times so that you can see what I'm doing. Take the strap in your right hand toward the top of the strap, and then bring that right arm up and let the strap hang below your head, like running behind your head and your back. Once you're there, bend that right elbow so that the palm of the hand is facing your spine. And then that left hand is coming around. The elbow's bending, so your palm is facing behind you and fingers are pointing down. And then slide the back of that hand toward your spine, and it grabs the band or the strap that's hanging there and walking your hands together along that strap. So stay with this. It can be a challenge for the shoulders. It's a beautiful way to work through shoulder mobility, which is important to have. It's a fragile joint because it's a ball and socket joint that's not stable like the hip is really stable. So it's nice to go really slowly with this. So it's like you're slowly walking the hands toward each other up the strap. I'm just turning so that you can kind of see. So I have the strap down here and hand is reaching and I'm walking the hands toward each other. And some people can bring their fingertips right together. Sometimes I can do that. Sometimes I can't. It's kind of one of those things. So let's stay with that for another 2 breath cycles. Closing the eyes is good on the pose like this that's really intense because it really allows you to trust your body to be inward with it and to go with what feels good. So take one more inhale. Exhale to release that bottom hand, the left hand. And then inhale, straighten out that right arm and bring it down. Now let's do the same thing on the other side. So we'll take it very slowly. So holding the strap in your left hand this time. Bring the arm up so the palm is facing forward here. And then bend that elbow so the palm is now facing your back or your spine. Now, the right arm this time comes up. So you bring that arm up with the elbow bent. The palm is facing behind you. Thumb is facing toward your body. And then slide the back of that hand in by your spine. Find the strap. And then start to walk those hands toward each other, or maybe just hold the top hand steady and work toward walking the bottom hand up the strap. And it might be really nice to just stay in place for a moment, close the eyes and breathe to feel where you are and ask yourself if you want to go farther. So stay with that breath. If your fingertips come right together, if that's in your range of motion to just bring the fingertips together, by all means, go there and ditch the strap. Stay with the breath and stay with the breathing. This is one of those times when we're aiming toward riding an edge. And that really means that we're just challenging ourselves to maybe work through a range of motion that we know is a little bit at the outside edges of our limits. One more full deep breath. And then release that bottom hand. Inhale that left arm up and release down by the side. Beautiful. Now just move that strap out of the way. And because we've done so much work in the shoulders, let's bring a little attention to the waist. So take the right hand all the way over to that outside edge of the left thigh. Bring the other hand behind to the low back. And inhale to lift up through the spine. Exhale to move into a twist. Stay steady with the inhale. And then exhale, see if you can bring yourself even more into a twist. So actively using that hand that's on the thigh to pull yourself into that twist. And the hand at the low back is really just supporting a nice rounded curve, that lumbar curve in the low back. One more inhale, staying in place, and one more exhale, seeing if you can get a little more twist. And then release, coming forward. Let's do the same thing on the other side. So left hand over to the outside edge of that right thigh, right hand behind to the low back. Pull on the outside edge of that thigh. On the exhale, into a twist. Your hand at the low back is giving you support. Push into it a little bit. Exhale to bring yourself more deeply into the twist. Inhale to lift up through the spine. Exhale into that twist. Stay with it for one more full deep breath. And then inhale, unwind, come all the way back to center. Let's shift out of this kneeling position. You may already be out of it. And bring yourself to seated on the cushion or on the block. Just slight elevation in those hips. When you've arrived there, and there's an odd bump in my cushion, so I just have to wiggle it out. Extend the legs straight out and give them a little shake. And now we'll work through Dandasana, staff pose. So check in that the feet are hip width distance apart and relax the feet. Place the hands beside you on the mat, beside the hips, fingertips or palms down, whatever feels most comfortable in your body. So just, so you feel length through the spine. Press into the mat and imagine that you're dragging the hands away from each other to lift up through the spine. And this is another great opportunity to close the eyes because we don't need them for balance. And it's a beautiful way to just really go inward for a moment here. Stay with it. One more full deep breath here. And then slowly release the energy in the arms, but keeping an energy in the torso. And then releasing the arms, totally bending your left knee and opening it to the side. And just taking both hands on the shin there and pulling it in as close as you can to your body. Keeping your left hand on that shin, release the right hand to the thigh and reach forward a little bit with that rib cage. And at the same time, imagine that you're pulling that right hip back and away from the heel. Stay with this. Similar idea to when we were standing and did that forward fold, but it does change things in the body. One more full deep breath here. And now bring the body up and bring that knee up. Extend it out. And we'll do another Dandasana before we go into the other side. So again, shake out through the feet, relax them, hands beside the hips on the mat, press down and away, lift up. Again, feel free to close the eyes and you really use those hands to pull away to find that support through this Dandasana. Crown of the head reaching toward the ceiling. Stay here for a few more breaths. Stay with the breathing. That really invites ease into the practice. And then now we're keeping that energy through the torso to maintain that tall spine as we slowly release the energy in the arms. So maybe bracing through the abdominals to keep that nice tall spine and then releasing the arms, bending that right knee this time. opening it to the side. Hands come to the shins. Pull in nice and tall. That will actually help you to kind of realign the spine if it's drooped a little bit. And then bring that left hand to that left thigh and inhale, reach the rib cage forward. And as you do that, imagine that you're pressing the base of that big toe forward a little bit and that left hip is pulling back and away from the heel. So again, I invite you to just close the eyes as you're doing this. It's a very subtle movement of just reaching the rib cage forward and pulling that hip back while keeping the foot relaxed. Stay with the breath. Little hamstring stretch here. Working through mobility in the hip, which is always great. With the knees, with the one knee bent, with the right knee bent, if you feel any crunchiness in there, imagine that you're pulling the right toes toward the right shin. One more full deep breath. And then slowly bringing that spine up, lifting that knee up, and then extending out. And one more Dandasana. So hands beside the hips again, feet are relaxed, press into the mat and drag away from the hips, find that nice tall spine. Crown of the head reaching, maybe close the eyes. Just notice, maybe now that we're on the third time for this Dandasana, we're finding greater ease here. Nice and tall. 2 more full deep breaths here. And now energy through the abdominals to brace the spine, and then slowly release the energy in the arms, keeping it nice and tall through the spine. This time, bend both knees up toward the chest, soles of the feet to the mat. Strap is an option here if you'd like. You can take the strap and put it midway around the feet, just ahead of the heels. You could also put your hands on the outside edges of your feet. That's an option. So decide what might work best for you. As you release the legs forward, trying to keep the rib cage kind of glued to the thighs so that you're folding over with the legs extending. So you could have your hands on that strap. You could have the hands to the outside edge of the feet. Nice options there. Going for straightening the legs. If you're working through a deeper forward fold, actively think of pulling the navel to the spine and pulling yourself, either the outsides of your feet or the straps, a little bit closer to your legs. Now just check in. When you feel like you've gone as far as you can, check in where your head is. If there's a space between your head and your legs, let's release from this Paschimottanasana, come up, bend the knees again, tuck a block in there maybe, because we're sitting on our cushions, right? Just let a block rest there. And then let's do that again and see if we can get to a point where we rest our forehead on that block. So nice inhale here, and then slowly start to let the heels slide forward, straightening out the legs, move into that forward fold. And maybe your forehead can come to that block. And you could change the positioning of the block, like you could make it higher if you wanted to. If you happen to have another big cushion handy, you could use that. So there's lots of options here, but maybe now we're going for straighter legs and changing the fold a little bit so that we're trying to actually access a fold more through the back that's happening here. Stay with it, and every exhale, navel to spine, because that will release muscles in the back. Experiment. This is a little bit about play, really, and seeing where our body can go. And apparently there is evidence that we don't actually really stretch out ligaments, tendons, muscles as much as we think, but more our brain actually becomes comfortable with where we're taking our body, which is kind of a fascinating finding. One more full deep breath. Then slowly make your way back up again. Maybe you want to bend those knees. Maybe that would feel good in the spine. Release the block off to the side. Take the strap away. And now let's make our way onto the back. Keep your blocks handy. We'll do some twisting again with blocks. Make your way all the way onto your back with your knees bent, so soles of the feet on the mat. Before we get into any twisting, let's work just a little bit more through back bends and opening up through the fronts of the hips. So feet are hip width distance apart. Hands could be by your side or in cactus pose if you feel like you want a little more opening through the shoulders. Just check in with what your body wants. Make sure that you've got one block handy right now by your hip there. Push your feet into the mat and inhale to lift up through the hips. Exhale to release back down. Let's make this a little dynamic first. So inhale, lift up, not very much, and really use that action of the feet pushing into the mat, and then release. And again, pushing with those feet, and then release. And as you release and land back at the mat, you have that natural curve in the spine as you land. One more time, let's go up and let's stay up there. Push through the feet. Lift up through the hips as much as you can, keeping that pushing happening through the feet and the knees staying tracking or in alignment with your hips. So it might almost feel like you're kind of pulling the knees toward each other a bit. Then take that block, slide it under your low back at whatever height you'd like to challenge yourself to today. So maybe it's mid height, maybe it's the highest height, maybe it's the lowest height. And then once you've landed here with this bit of a back bend challenge, so something that might be challenging for you to sustain without the block there. So think of that. Where's that place that just maybe a little bit beyond your range of motion when you don't have support? And then feel free to stay right here, or to add a little bit more opening into the front of the hips, extend both legs out. So this is a really pretty deep back bend. And so it's really helpful to stay with this for several breaths. And you can let the feet fall away from the midline here as opposed to having them pointing up. For most people, it would be more comfortable to have the feet falling away, but not always. So check in with what feels good. Emphasis on this deep back bend here and opening up through the fronts of the hips. Let's stay with this for a few more breaths. If you've challenged yourself to an edge on this, stay with the breath. One more full deep breath. And then maybe bend one knee at a time, bring the sole of the foot to the mat, and then bend the other one. Push with those feet to lift the hips up, and then slide that block out and release basically your hips down to the mat because you're keeping that nice curve in the low back. And then just take a moment there to feel what's in your back, because a deep back bend might need a little bit of neutralizing through the spine. Do the very easy windshield wiper movement from side to side to just start that process. And then bring those knees back to face the ceiling. Extend the left leg out. Make sure that you have a block over on the left side of your body. Then hug in that right knee toward the chest. And when you're ready, on an exhale, gently bring that right bent leg all the way over to land on that block. And it could be at the highest height, the medium height, or the lowest height you choose. You might need to shift that left hip a little bit away from the block, just so that you really know that your leg is supported by that block. And then maybe experiment with arms straight out, and then turn the head away from that knee. This is called the universal twist. It has a very long Sanskrit name, Shava Udara Karshanasana. I have no idea why that name is so long. Although we could break down the Sanskrit if we wanted to. Stay with it. You might find that twisting, if you had anything to eat within the hour before the class, you might have some stomach rumbling happening. Twisting is thought to detoxify organs. Certainly, twisting is good for our body because it is a range of motion that we lose as we get older. And by losing that range of motion, we actually lose a sense of ease in our daily functional movement. Take 2 more breaths here. And then begin to unwind, bringing that knee back to center. And then lowering that foot down. You might need to push that foot into the mat to shift your hips back to level on the mat. Now bend that left leg and then extend the right leg. And now just check in that you have a block on the other side by that right hip. Hug that left knee in. When you're ready, exhale, bring that knee all the way over, that bent leg all the way over to rest on the block on the other side. And notice maybe there's a difference in the height of the block that is preferential for you on this side. And again, you may need to scooch that right hip away from that block just so that you really are sure that the block is supporting the weight of the leg. And then arms can come out straight in T, palms facing up, and maybe invite the head into a twist away from that knee. And again, just breathe. Notice where you're feeling this. Maybe through that twisting motion in the side body, maybe through the chest and the open shoulders, maybe through the neck. Wherever you might be feeling any dis-ease, breathe into that area. It's a visualization, but it's a powerful one. Just visualize that you're breathing ease into the body and sending ease to that place where you feel any tension at all. The block is supporting you. The block is an extension of the earth, which is supporting you. Keep breathing. Two more full deep breaths here. And then on that next inhale, slowly make that transition back. Knee comes in, and then that foot lowers, and pushing that foot into the mat and lifting the hips up to find a neutral pelvis there. And then from here, just making our way straight to Shavasana. So leg extends out. Take a moment to bring the arms alongside the body and walk the shoulders away from the ears. The crown of the head might want to reach a little bit toward the top of your mat there, or end of your mat, whatever you consider it. Feet are slightly falling away from the midline, and the legs are slightly separated. Palms are facing up. Everything that we do leads us to this Shavasana, which is corpse pose. This is the pose that gives us an appreciation for the fact that we are all mortal and that our time here is precious and that our breath is appreciated. Invite heaviness into the whole body. The whole body is heavy into the mat. And that whole body is experiencing stillness with that heaviness. Bring your awareness to Chitta Kasha, space behind the closed eyes. Take your time and be the witness to anything that you may see there. Colors, patterns, symbols, even whole images. And then with your awareness at Chitta Kasha, return to the intention that you set at the beginning of the practice, repeating it to yourself mentally 3 times with emphasis and trusting that if you can visualize it, you have started creating it. Bring your awareness now back to your breath, deepening it by expanding through the belly and the side body, the rib cage. Exhaling, maybe opening the mouth or maybe still breathing through the nose only, whatever feels best in your body and brings the most ease. And then bring an awareness to the body by moving again in whatever way feels like it's inviting some ease into it. So maybe shoulder movement or fingers, toes, head. Just slowly start to move around. And then link body to breath by taking a nice big stretch. Exhaling to bend the knees and rolling to one side and taking a full deep breath with your head resting on the arm that's underneath, taking it slowly, pressing yourself up to seated when you're ready, letting the palms rest facing upward, and maybe closing the eyes for another moment and visualizing an abundance of ease. Ease pouring into those open palms, ease spreading to every cell in the body. And bringing those palms to the heart center, sealing the practice by saying Namaste. Divine in me recognizes the divine in you. Thank you so much. And let's check in with goddess energy right now. Irene, peace. That pretty much goes with ease. There is no need to worry as everything is working out beautifully. There you have it.